Welcome to The Business That Pays with Adam Tolliver from Artisan Financial Strategies, where we mind the business that pays you. In this podcast, we empower successful families and business owners to make informed decisions about their finances through courageous conversations. Through his expertise as a practicing investment advisor representative with Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor, Adam teaches you how to create a wealth ecosystem by combining a practical technical framework with your personal, family, and community values. Join us for this journey where Adam normalizes sustainable wealth building and gives you the keys to make courageous, proactive financial decisions.
How do you make sure you're keeping your finger on the pulse of your financial plan and remaining proactive year-round? An annual financial review is the status quo and really a minimum best practice. At Artisan, Adam Tolliver's approach focuses on a quarterly service model. And I love the title you gave this episode, Adam, Your Quarterback for All 4 Quarters. That's great because you are the quarterback of someone's financial plan, aren't you?
Absolutely. That's exactly the way we see ourselves as planners. And we talked about this in the last episode when we talked about teamwork, making the dream work, and understanding that you've got your financial life that has several different types of advisors across multiple disciplines that are helping you tie everything together. And today, talking about my role as a financial planner for my clients, I really do see myself as that quarterback to help them navigate through the entire picture. And so we do that on a quarterly basis, exactly the way we look at it.
All right. I love it. Like I said. So let's take the first quarter then. Of course, the year is 12 months. The first quarter is the first 3 months of the year. What do you focus on then?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the year, a big part of what we want to do is take a look at your financial position. We've talked on this podcast in the past about the importance of benchmarks and how we measure your progress across time. How do we compare where you currently are and where you've come from so that we know what the different trends and problem areas or opportunities happen to be as we're going along. This first quarter of the year is where we take a good look at that. Also, we're looking back to see what are the things that we already accomplished and what are some of those future projects that we identified in our initial financial plan. So when we go through a financial plan, the first engagement is a really heavy lift where we're uncovering a lot of what's already been done, what's been undone or hasn't been working, and we're readjusting and recalibrating. We come out of that with a list of items that we need to implement right away. And those will be, priorities based on, this is a fire, it's an emergency that should have been done a long time ago when we didn't realize that it was a gap or a vulnerability, or it's just something that needs to be done fairly quickly. And we're marrying that with what resources do we actually have in order to address it. And then after we've exhausted the resources available that make sense to address those particular items, we've got our future projects list. The first quarter of each year, we're taking a look at that future projects list and figuring out, okay, what can we reasonably expect that we can actually tackle this year moving forward? So we're really getting our game plan in order for the year ahead to figure out how are we going to define this year as a success for your financial plan?
So you're not taking every single objective and hitting it every single year. You break them up into what is accomplished, what you can accomplish, and maybe what's most important.
Absolutely. We're always triaging, which is a medical term. So, some things are important, but not necessarily urgent. And then, of course, some things are urgent and they have to be handled right away. And so this list of goals and objectives that we're looking at tend to be always varying in that type of priority. So we want to figure out exactly what we need to handle right now. And we're always doing that based on the available cash flow and looking at your balance sheet to see where your assets currently are that may be repurposed, or maybe a portion of those funds can be used to address some of these objectives that may come up.
How about things that may have changed in your life in the last year?
Absolutely. That is a huge part of this, promotions, job changes, moves, children going from one school to another, family changes, all of those things. We want to take good inventory at the beginning of the year.
All right. Now, I usually think of tax planning in the fourth quarter. Maybe that's a little bit late. I see you've got it here listed in the first quarter, which really does make some sense. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So, and you'll see we have tax planning in the fourth quarter as well. So tax planning really is a 2-quarter type of game. And in some cases, especially with business owners, it may be a year-round consideration, those who are paying their taxes quarterly. But we are working with our client CPAs and bookkeepers in this portion of the year because this is when they'll be filing for the most part. And so just making sure that we're available and that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. A lot of times there may be a collaborative strategy that we're doing that's going to help on the planning side and that the CPA needs to be aware of when they're filing those taxes. So we want to make sure that line of communication stays open. And then also a lot of people are doing their sort of last minute retirement contributions and things
Right.
like that to their
Yeah.
various IRAs. So it's a big part of it.
And if you're dealing with businesses, what about capital gains or even investments, capital gains?
Yep, that's also where we're taking a look at that. So in your taxable investment accounts, what do we need to consider if any property was sold or anything like that, where capital gains need to be recognized? We want to make sure that we've taken inventory of that and addressed all of the potential strategies and opportunities that come with that.
Okay, what else in the first quarter?
And then we also take a look at your investment planning a bit, and that we do that really in preparation for quarter two. Anytime we sit down for a review, we're most likely going to review the most recent performance in your investment portfolios. And then we'll take a deeper dive once we get to Q2.
All right. Q2 it is. We're talking the second quarter of the year. That would be January, February, March, April, May, and June. There we go. I've got to go through my fingers. This is kind of a, I don't know, a quiet quarter. Is it for you guys too?
To an extent, because we do a heavy lift in quarters 4 and 1 in preparation for tax season and everything like that. For Q2, we really move our focus towards investment planning. This is where we want to review the current investment strategy, the contributions, how those are going. A lot of times the ebbs and flows through the different seasons of life can impact how much we feel comfortable contributing to our various investment accounts, our various retirement accounts. We want to review performance. We want to review asset allocation to see if we need to change anything as far as how you're invested. And we do that across all accounts. So in our firm at Artisan, of course, we manage some accounts, but then also you may have a 401k or you may have investments elsewhere. And we believe that in order to really wrap our arms around your entire picture, we need to give you advice on the entire picture, whether we have it or not. So we can't really give you the best advice on the account that we manage if we don't understand how you're positioned in your other accounts. And so this is a big part of that. We're just combing through to make sure that we've got a good understanding of what are we contributing, where, how's that going, how well are you positioned in your emergency fund, because that impacts how securely you can invest, how confidently you can invest. So we're taking a good picture at everything as far as really, I would say, cash flow and contributions go to your investment accounts, as well as the actual performance and allocation in those investment accounts.
You mentioned first quarter and fourth quarter, the heavy lifting of taxes, but I see you have tax planning here in the second quarter as well.
Yep. And that's because in Q2, you should have your taxes done and then should get your tax returns.
Oh, good point. Good point.
And so once we've got the tax return, we want to do some reviews, and always want to stress that, we are not tax advisors. So we're working with your CPAs on that, but we do have tax strategies and tax advantage strategies that we like to implement. And when we do that, that's why that open line of communication is so important with the CPA, is because we're always cross-referencing between our resources and our knowledge base in-house and working with our client CPAs.
All right. You also have something here, college planning. That can be painful for a lot of people. It
can. And the decision about how to approach college planning is one that I see evolving quite a bit. It's more and more common for people to be mindful of what their options are and making sure that they're keeping their options open. And so there's a lot of diverse approaches to college planning, and it can be a bit dynamic, which is why we have it as something that we touch on annually for those families who are considering it. And that includes managing existing student loans. So we like to have that conversation because it does have an impact on really your capacity and your focus on where else you're putting your money.
Which brings up the question too. You've mentioned it a little bit already, but where else you put your money, your clients may not only have accounts with Artisan, they may have them outside. How do you reconcile that? How do you get everything together that you need to know to help them with a comprehensive plan?
Yeah, so we just make sure that we get a look at the statements. And of course, those accounts may be just as simple as their 401k at work, or they may be an investment account that they've opened elsewhere. Some clients like to trade in their own accounts because they've picked up the skill, they picked up the knowledge base, and they want to do a little bit of that on the side. And so we can give you the best advice possible when we know how the rest of your portfolio is affecting it. So we never want to make recommendations in a silo, because what's a good investment in a silo may not make sense for the entire picture. And so once we have a good idea of how well you're invested, what type of risk you're taking in those other accounts, we can then better position you to make sure that it's all complementary and actually flows together.
All right. That's the fun time of year. That's the spring. It's a great weather time of year. And now we're getting to the hot months, July, August, and September, the third quarter. What do you tackle here?
So the third quarter is all about risk management and protection planning. We are doing everything insurance, everything employee benefits. We are, taking inventory of estate planning. It's a lot of work in Q3, but this is very critical. As you'll recall from our 4 pillars episode, protecting your downside is a huge part of a comprehensive financial plan. And risk management and protection planning is all about that from every angle. So it's a big part of what we do. And I often find that clients get a lot out of the work that we do in quarter 3.
All right. We're talking employee benefits here, life insurance, home and auto insurance. We mentioned that in other episodes too, but I think that's a lot of things, several things that people often forget to review. And your estate planning, that's just checking. Do you have a will, power of attorney?
Yeah, and doing beneficiary audits. Always tell people the worst thing that you could ever have is an accidental beneficiary. It's not a price that you will necessarily pay, but your family will never forget if someone got something that they were not supposed to get. So always making sure we're doing those beneficiary audits.
And remember, the beneficiary always trumps what's in the will.
Yep. It's typically going to be a contract type of designation, and that contract will supersede what you have in your will. So be careful.
All right. Fourth quarter. Hey, this is the holiday time here, right? We've got October, November, December. Who cares about financial planning?
Hey, we don't want to be caught flat-footed. If we're sticking to our athletic analogies here. we want to make sure that we are anticipating and being prepared. And honestly, doing this work, I find, helps the CPAs out quite a bit. Your tax advisors, those that will be actually filing the taxes. If we can be proactive in Q4, as opposed to, piling extra work on their plate in the first quarter when they're approaching the deadline, tends to be a lot happier camper on their part.
All right, quarterback Tolliver, tell me what you do in the fourth quarter.
So this is where we're looking at any potential relevant tax law changes. We're looking at what are your plans if you have a tax refund. If you are going to owe taxes, how do you plan to pay for them? We want to make sure that we're anticipating the potential challenges and hurdles as well as the opportunities here. We're also looking at where are the places that you can make some contributions. So which retirement plans do you plan to contribute to? Again, that's whether we're managing them or not. We're also looking at charitable gifting. Charitable gifting typically is going to be a cross between estate planning and a tax decision. Most people are making their charitable gifts on an annual basis. And so deciding, hey, how much have you given this year so far, and how much more do you want to give in anticipation of tax season is a big part of that planning.
All right. How about retirement distributions? You talked about contributions. How about the distributions?
Yes. So distributions are going to be most important for people who are either in retirement already and approaching their required minimum distribution age. So they may be getting up to age 72. So do we want to do some planning that may be able to defer some of those required minimum distributions? And how much of it do you actually need for income? And then also, we're looking at that for some of those clients who may have inherited IRAs. So if you've got an inherited IRA, you may be on a clock or a time crunch on how soon you need to divest from the qualified plan. And are we taking that as income to use towards expenses, or is that something that we need to be funneling towards another investment strategy because you don't really need the money? But in doing so, we've still got to manage that because you are required to take them out.
Adam, in the fourth quarter too, do you talk about Roth conversions? Is this a good time to actually look at that type of an idea?
Yes. So in the fourth quarter, again, if we're looking at all things in the tax planning realm, and we're talking about retirement distributions and contributions, all of that, we want to evaluate what our strategy is, because the way that your retirement funding grows and the income that you take from it when you do. So whether that's, you're in retirement right now, or you're going to be there 20 years from now, 30 years from now, where your funds are positioned while you're growing them is a big part of that. And so evaluating Roth conversions, which are key for employees or people who are working and have an income that is higher than the Roth limit to what you can contribute, we do need to look at, do we want to take some of your traditional IRA funds and do a conversion into a Roth? And when we do that, there are tax implications, but there's strategic tax implications. So we need to make a decision about how much and how often we want to do that.
Now, I've got a question for you about your clients. In the fourth quarter, do more of them respond to you than in any of the other quarters?
It tends to vary. We try to keep that cadence as consistent as possible. But funny enough, people do tend to kind of slow down a little bit during the holidays because they've got time off from work. So even though, they may be traveling, they may have some family time, some vacation time scheduled, they do tend to slow down a little bit because they've got a little time. And we actually do get a hold of people. The time of the year where it's hit or miss is during those summer months. People get busy with graduation season and vacations. And so, it's not uncommon for people to say, oh yeah, we'll be off the radar for a month and a half. You know what I mean? So, so yeah, the summer months is where it's pretty hit or miss.
All right. Well, Adam, how can people reach you any time of the year?
Yes, you can reach me at workingwithadam.com.
And that is Adam Tolliver of Artisan Financial Strategies, your go-to quarterback. I'm Patrice Sikora, and let's talk again later.
Thank you for listening to Business That Pays. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the Artisan Financial Strategies or Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial professional provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment strategies.
Adam Tolliver, registered representative offering securities through New York Life Securities, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a licensed insurance agency. 1125 Cambridge Square, Suite C, Alpharetta, Georgia, 30009, 404-210-9311. Financial advisor offering investment advisory services through Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. New York Life Securities, LLC, and Eagle Strategies, LLC are New York Life companies. Artisan Financial Strategies, LLC is not owned or operated by New York Life Securities, LLC, or its affiliates. Neither Artisan Financial Strategies, LLC, nor its advisors provide tax, legal, or accounting advice.